All right, welcome to our live question and answer portion of the presentation. We're joined by our excellent group of panelists, and I thank you for joining us for this live portion and for recording the broadcast for the AMCHP conference. My name is Athia Chaudhry, and I'm with AMCHP, and I'm joined by my amazing colleague Jake Mulroy from AMCHP. We are your co-pilots for this live Q&A. So essentially, you know, this is for our participants, this is your time to ask any questions of our panelists, share any comments, thoughts, reactions. We're here. And I'm just going to check the conference platform. So there were not any questions submitted in the platform. So that means that we can stick to the Zoom room for our discussion.
You know, we've just got a few participants, but would also love to hear, I think this is a two-way street, right? So we've been doing a lot of different breastfeeding work, as we said, but would love to hear about what you're doing in your communities as well, if you're working on anything related to this topic.
Thank you, Nikki. Yes, absolutely. The few participants who've joined thus far, this is your opportunity to share as well what you're working on in your communities. So,
can you hear me? Oh, all right. I just got here. Sorry, I just finished the video. It was quite interesting. I don't think I do a ton with breastfeeding. I helped coordinate the Safe Sleep though. So that was the reason that I came to that particular meeting. But we have a breastfeeding coordinator, ODH, who does probably some great things, but I did see some collaborations from watching that video. So I'm excited to take that back and figure out if, well, for sure, if they're in, you know, if we have how many workplace wellness and activities we have within the 9 OEI, specifically within the state of Ohio. We have the Ohio Equity Institute, where we have the worst birth outcomes and infant mortality. So I'd be curious what, you know, how many workplace initiatives, because it seems like that was a really big deal. It's not just the ability to be able to breastfeed, right, but to be able to have space and time to be held for that. So yeah, I'm excited to take this back. Am I the only one here? Did I get done early? I might have.
We have Trinity as well. Not
okay, all right, perfect. Okay. Yeah, it was good though. It was really informative, I thought.
Yeah, Sharona, this is Ken. So thanks for hanging out and checking it out. I think I would be interested in you commenting more about the connection between breastfeeding and safe sleep. And I've been part of Healthy Start for over 30 years and been doing this work in community for a long time and working with families, you know, at one point in my career. I do remember hearing a lot from moms and from families. Again, for them, the reality of having to have the baby with you at all time and sleeping with the baby while you're nursing, that was a time that they could be with their babies. And so that would come up a lot in Safe Sleep. I did a lot of the FEMA work.
Yeah,
so
well,
what are you experiencing?
Yeah, I think we've had some loss, right, where they've slept with the child in their bed. So I think that this ideal of having good breastfeeding practices taught to our safe sleep moms would be really something that we could certainly pair with. That's probably the first thing that came to mind. You know, because I just heard about one today, right, where one of our home visitors was just experienced an infant loss. So I mean, we definitely have these tragedies that happen, but it's more about like, how do we get this information out, right? And I guess I've never really thought of the disparities, right? Not being able to breastfeed because of a lot of the things that it talked about, which, you know, having workplace initiatives and workplace wellness. And, you know, what do those things look like in our 9 OEIs, right? Do we really have that at capacity? And if not, how do we increase that to capacity so that moms do feel like they can go back? One of the other things I think that the video mentioned too was moms going back early. I know for a fact that is something that came up with Safe Sleep. We've had some moms go back as early as 3 to 4 weeks, and that, you know, those are just things that are really, outside of our scope, but really impacting the work we do heavily, because we've just been experiencing such a high proportion of infant deaths, especially in the OEIs. And I saw something that said 2 times in our OEIs, they're at least probably 3 times, sometimes 4 times, right? The disparity for the African-American versus Caucasian loss. So, I mean, it's just something that we have to really try and drill down in Ohio. How can we use these things to work for us? So I was thinking like, oh, we could get that breastfeeding coordinator and figure out how many workplace initiatives, right, we have in those areas that we really are experiencing the highest infant loss from.
Yeah, in Ohio, and another strategy connected to that, what we find, and you saw we talk about father's role, because he's been rendered invisible, right? So even when we think of in the home, this father or partner that can support, and some of the strategy is engaging him in breastfeeding so that he can take the baby when she does need to sleep and she don't have to sleep with the baby. So this idea, again, making sure mom has what she needs to pump so the dad can give the give the baby breast milk. And so we've seen some good changes shifting there when dads have been included, just even in the practice at home. And same thing when they go back to work. Again, that partner's there and really start looking to dad to kind of help. So that's another thing of thinking. But congratulations on the work in Ohio. And we're working with Mrs. Dent at the state level around fatherhood work. And we talk about this exact thing because unfortunately, Ohio is one of the, I think they've got a grade of a D from the March of Dimes on infant mortality. So again, the work there you all doing is tremendous and there's a lot to do, but however we can all support each other but through these sessions is really good. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, absolutely. And Kim Dent is certainly a partner of ours. She really does our infant mortality task force, which, is really our statewide initiative for infant mortality, where we're going to try and work across sectors so that we can, have the most people at the table who really all have the biggest impact of this.
Noticing that, Alma, you're back with us, and just wanted to loop you into this conversation because Sharonda was talking a lot about the connections between breastfeeding and safe sleep. And I don't know, Alma, in the Bronx, if that's something you all have been talking about as well. Oh, Alma, I think you're on mute.
Sure was, sorry. Yes, absolutely. And we do know that the bigger number of the infant mortality goes towards sleep-related, or actually sleep-related deaths. And so we encourage breastfeeding, but also, to pause and return the infant to his or her sleep surface. But we also know that does not happen all the time and it presents a risk. But we definitely, for optimal breastfeeding, we certainly want to support moms or, lactating persons the best way we can in more of a risk reduction way, as opposed to saying we must do X, Y, Z, but how do we support these individuals so that they're doing the best for their babies, breastfeeding as well as keeping them safe as they sleep. And it is a challenge, but we do try to understand the culture and the language and the resources. And then we try to also provide some of the resources. So do we give the pack and play or the bassinet or the cribs, and then really encourage mothers or lactating persons when you're tired, and we know you're very tired and you're always going to be very tired, but what's the best way for you to be able to feed and then return the baby? Because we know if you lay down, you get comfy, baby gets comfy, and stuff happens, and we want to avoid that. So put a pillow, something that doesn't make you quite as comfortable, so you can, move the baby out and go to sleep. And so we look at that and work very closely on an individual level. Who's at home? What's your support structure, support system, resources, and whatever we can help to push in to support, that's what we do. But certainly safe sleep, breastfeeding are integral. And we just need to think in terms of risk management strategies for the families that we serve, because there are lots of different reasons. And as we eye our unfortunately rising infant mortality rates, we want to make sure that we are, giving them the knowledge and the understanding of how to do what needs to get done and in the safest possible way.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharonda, for kicking off this great discussion, for those connections. And Alma, thank you for underscoring the risk reduction aspect of this too. I think that is a really important point to underscore. And, you know, even just different cultural viewpoints, you know, I come from I'm a child of immigrants, you know, and we have back home, you know, there are, and many countries across the world, like sleeping next to your child is the most natural and, you know, but of course, like, so yeah, it's hard to like say, it's not black and white is what I want to say. So I appreciate the cultural component of that as well. Great, and I see we have some more participants joining us. Welcome to the live Q&A portion. We're joined by an excellent panel of speakers. And this is your opportunity to ask any questions, comment, or share maybe some of the breastfeeding work that you all are doing in your communities, in your states or jurisdictions.
During this quiet, I would just ask of those that are here, how are you doing with regards to bringing dads and partners into your breastfeeding work?
You know, and I know for us in the Bronx, it is a challenge. Primarily starting from our staffing situation into the community. But the important thing or the interesting thing of recent, we have more male figures that it's associated with our Healthy Start program. And now they're speaking, they're not all fathers, but they're now speaking up like, yeah, now I know what it really feels like to be the fewer persons in the room. Usually it's men, really maybe one, if any, in a group of female women that's part of a Healthy Start or any other MCH type programs that we're working. And now I was part of a group talking about fatherhood and fatherhood efforts. And I was the only female in the group of 6 men. And one of the guys said that, and they were actually saying that coming into supporting dads, the perception is we the women, the female, you know, they don't really care to have males as part of, it's a woman or it's a female or it's the thing. And so why should I want to be part of the breastfeeding workshops? Because I'm not really breastfeeding. And so we had to break it down. Rub her shoulders, get her a glass of water, rub her feet, put her feet up. You know, maybe you won't be doing the most important job when you look at what that image represents, but you'll be doing a very important job for the mother. It will aid that letdown as she's nursing, you know, the bonding for all that are there. And so it's taking on a whole new persona to talk to and engage and have the dads or the males come into the room. We do have a couple of clinic sites that we work at, and the challenges and pushback we get at times is that, well, when I go to the doctor with my partner, I have to sit outside the room. I can't go into the room. So why am I going? She could take an Uber and get there, and I meet her when she gets back home. You know, so we within Healthy Start are trying to change the culture and the custom of integrated and including the men and the father figures in the relationships. But it's also the structure and the systemic considerations we also have to look at and bring to bear because they will see us or we'll have a home visit once in a period. They're having frequent prenatal visits, for example. We're encouraging dads to go along on those trips. And they're saying like, I feel like I'm a clog in the wheel. I get in the way because no one talks to me but her. So I could meet her back at home. So what are some things that we can be thinking about or producing and perhaps, working with so that we can, I guess, in the shortest term, having the clinical side, the clinical practices, or the other professionals where pregnant persons are engaged in that can welcome the male partner into that setting.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I just wondered, what are other folks doing? Are you seeing, are your dads are really, are you, for if you're a Healthy Start, because I'm not sure what other programs, but are you seeing that an uptick in the number of males or partners that are accompanying on prenatal visits, and are they feeling that they're welcome or it's an important role for them to play? And how are you addressing that? Because we're still struggling with say, well, no, you should go. And it's okay if you feel like just a chauffeur. It's okay. You know your role, you know your worth, and just focus, function from there. But I'm thinking we might need to do more or have them look at or connect in other ways. So what are some thoughts on that?
I would certainly say in Ohio, we've been trying to incorporate fathers more into the work that we do. And we've been looking at some of the policies behind it that don't actually incorporate fathers in the work that we do. And trying from a, we call it small p policy, right? To find the back ends that allow fathers into programs.
Right.
Because it's not necessarily like that the program isn't written to fathers, it just isn't targeted in a lot of instances. So we are looking at policies. We actually have and programs, right, that support mom and saying, could this support a dad? We're even looking at some of the ways in which we write things, right, where it'll say mom, right? One that comes to mind that we were actually notified of a couple weeks ago was our moms and babies, babies program that we have, Baby and Me Tobacco Free, right?
Yeah.
And all the images and graphics kind of look like it has to be a woman. And that's, basically excluding a part of some of the people who deliver. So, we're looking at some of those things and thinking, is this really what we mean? Or do we need to intentionally include more people in the conversation along the path? So I certainly think you're right. The inclusion of fathers in programming, right, as more of a before thought as opposed to an afterthought, certainly is something that we've been looking at in Ohio as well.
Yeah.
Thank you both for that discussion on engaging fathers and partners in those. We have a really great question in the chat. I work in the adolescent health, and I'm curious if there has been any intention to engage with young parents in your efforts. Oftentimes because they are adolescents and parenting, they get unintentionally overlooked for services.
Yeah, I'll jump in really quickly and just think about Healthy Start over the 30 years. And so as we know with teen pregnancy, it hasn't changed too much as far as the unintentional pregnancies that come there. So I would say Healthy Start has adopted a life course approach many, many years ago. And so looking across the life course has always been part of Healthy Start. And so there are many programs that actually target the adolescents that I know of around the country. And in particular, following the CDC's recommendation on reproductive life planning. And so again, you think about preconception even, there's been great campaigns in some states around the country that have really targeted young people. And the reproductive life planning, I do know of a few programs that actually created programs that worked in middle schools and really helping young people think about their life and what they want to be, and then also how to prevent getting pregnant early. So they're definitely focused on that because, again, a life course perspective. But if I just add one thing from the last part of the conversation around fatherhood programs, because many people in MCH, and I think what Alma said is important for all of us to hear again, MCH wasn't a system that was designed for men. So we talk about just, hey, come. That's not enough because it wasn't designed for him. Therefore, when he does come, he's not going to feel this or feel that. And I know from being a father myself, it wasn't just about, I know my responsibility, I know I matter, I know I'm important. It was important for that environment to speak that. And so Alma shared that we know about baby-friendly hospitals. Now she's doing breastfeeding friendly. Well, we have this other term called father-friendly. So I do think, and going to Sharonda's point, the program has to change itself, transform to make itself a father-friendly place. Staff needs to talk about it, be trained on it, et cetera, even before he comes there. So I just wanted to highlight that because that's a part of the work over 30 years. Then also the policies that she spoke to, absolutely changing the policies. Fathers and fathers of color in particular have been policied out. And so that's so true. So we have to undo some things. And then the third P is the actual practice, how people behave within those institutions. When people have been excluded, just inviting them doesn't do the trick for inclusion. That's a whole process. So I just wanted to share that around fatherhood because that's kind of my lane personally and also within Healthy Start. But that's what the programs around the country are looking at. How do they really look at that MCH continuum and to show dad his value across the continuum? So centering dads on the child, number one. And so then you can say, if you have a value to this child by supporting mom. And so again, his role is supporting her. So again, when it comes to breastfeeding, supporting her, that's familiar to him. And that's the success and transformation we've seen with dads in their mind. I understand that I matter to the outcomes of this pregnancy by supporting her. When baby's here, I matter by helping here. And I love it when I tell you about getting her a snack. I definitely got my wife lots of snacks to help, so it's a benefit for him too. So he happy home, he'll be happy if he keeps her happy. So I just wanted to say those pieces about the fatherhood. So again, if you're thinking about including dads, it's more than just inviting him or pumping him up that he matters. If the environment doesn't reflect that, then it doesn't matter. And so the staff that you have, the kind of folks that engage him, that's what makes the difference and bringing it all together. So just wanted to encourage you on with that.
And that is really so important. And we are now, again, because we just got a new fatherhood coordinator support, again, we're looking at our environment, and it's really understanding, it's going beyond hanging the pictures on the wall with the show of father in there. And it's beyond sending the flyer, the invite. The invitation has to be a direct invitation where there's a connection. And so we're changing language, changing environment, and really looking to really get to the father-friendly approach to beef that up. But just on the teen, actually, I had a call from one of my sites just yesterday, and they said, oh, we have a 14-year-old pregnant person, and we're trying to figure out how to get the parents' consent to provide service. I said, oh, hold it. No, you don't. No, you don't. There's something called reproductive rights of minors. Those individuals are entitled to and can request. And so we also work very closely with our school-based health centers to do the reproductive life planning for them and other preconception type focused work in those settings. But it's really important to get the word out, to really stay consistent, even with your staffing, to say, yes, minors have a right, reproductive rights is protected by law, and it is our business to make sure that every pregnant person or every birthing person, every person who approaches Healthy Start gets treated with fairness, with respect, and you're approaching and providing the kind of quality care and services that they need. So teens are certainly welcome. And we do believe that every person has a right to quality care and services. And so we don't have a high number. Fortunately, we are seeing, although it's high, we're still seeing a reduction in teen pregnancies in some of the in neighborhoods that we serve. But the need is still there, and we definitely bring them in and support them with a more teen-friendly teen approach using instruments and resources that have been identified as particularly validated to support and engage with the younger population. And I think it's an important thing because, you know, from years back, families were starting, and folks were starting their families at very early ages. We're seeing a later approach to it now, but we have to certainly embrace the younger ones as well as they come in, even for why they've got to that point in their lives so early, but we certainly bring them in and offer support for them.
I wonder if you could also talk, because I know that we've talked a bit about the campaign, the media campaign that you all launched in the Bronx. And I know that was broad, right, in terms of different ages and kind of all your community members. You want to talk a little bit about that and your work there?
Yeah. So again, because we know the breastfeeding rates are very low, the continuation is extremely low. And we are required to show an improvement every year in our population. And it's an important belief for us that our babies get the best that's available and the mothers are supported. And so the campaign that we launched is broad because we want it to be a community level. And, you know, if you think about the social ecological model, we're looking at it all on those levels, right? So we're connecting with our partners who are other MCH providers, educators, and others. We're connecting with our institutions, we're connecting with our families, and the businesses and supports that are presently in the community. We want the local, we call them bodegas, or the local corner store, their employees to be able to have accommodations for lactation if that's required. We also want our institutions to be providing those. So we're looking at the workforce and what a lactating person will need within the life course, and trying to make sure that whether it's Healthy Start or any of the Healthy Start partners or any of the organizations that exist and operates within the community, they have the knowledge and the interest in supporting those families. Some of the things that we hear from some of our birthing, lactating people, oh, the cat calls, I can't stand it. I need to, you know, I have to go home to feed my baby. So if you know, on one of our posters, and our video, one of the video clips, it actually shows that you can breastfeed on the subway, in the park, because there are laws and there are rights that individuals have. And so we wanted to heighten awareness as to those factors. We also want to educate businesses and individuals that there are paid leaves and opportunities for workplace and worksite accommodations during those first 6 or even 24 weeks of birth. And we also wanted to make sure that our institutions and our other caregivers understand that it's important to support these families in the ways that they need. And we are trying to inform policies, we're trying to inform resources. So we're targeting elected officials as well. And how else and what else can we make sure the Bronx has? So we're targeting and connecting with Mamava, who makes the nursing pods that you may see in airports, to come in and have some in our Bronx, in our breastfeeding friendly zones. So where folks want and have a need to feed their babies while they're out shopping and doing other things, they don't have to go behind the clothing rack in Marshall's or someplace else. They could go into a clean, you know, appropriate space to do so. So the campaign, yes, it is broad, and we do it in English and Spanish. And we've posted the posters that you've seen in our bus stations and hubs, where we have most of the buses and trains and so forth conversion. And we also have these sidewalk kiosk that's called New York City Link. And we have over 100 link boxes across the borough that is also showing those posters. So again, we really wanted to get out there so folks can start to ask, what is breastfeeding? Why is breastfeeding? why should I support, or why am I not supporting? And who can I reach out to? So it's a family, it's a village effect. And we are trying to support them and support our partners to make sure that our families are comfortable and breastfeeding. Because we like to say Bronx babies matter. That's our hashtag.
Thank you so much, Alma, for sharing that amazing communication campaign. I know we're a few minutes past our time together. This has been such an engaging conversation. Thank you to our participants and our panelists for the dialogue. I am one day shy of my son's first birthday, and
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, I just like want to share that like I've been able to breastfeed him this entire year, and I feel like this is a space to, you know, to share that, and it just feels like an amazing accomplishment, and I hope that for all the lactating persons. So thank you, you know, just for joining, for engaging, and thank you especially to our panelists for this presentation and for the work that you all are doing. So I will wrap us up here, and that concludes our live Q&A.
Thanks everyone for hanging
Thank
out.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right, I don't think there was anything in the chat that we need to